Hi everyone, welcome to the Movie Section Show. My name is Fariba, and today we're about to watch Secret Invasion episode 6, which happens to also be the final episode for the series, which is insane because it was not long ago that we started watching Secret Invasion, like about 6 weeks ago. It definitely gave us a sense of a very different MCU content than we've ever had before because it feels as if it is a very grounded and sophisticated aesthetic in terms of its storytelling, its aura, the whole like broodiness out of the whole tone of it, knowing kind of the stakes of it all, how it's really maintained the political thriller elements that we've seen before in MCU, like with Civil War and Winter Soldier, but not to the far more darker extent that we've seen here. And of course, like going to this whole series, we had, anticipated the story was going to be focused on the Skrull invasion from the comics. We've seen this becoming basically kind of the basis of the story arc throughout this whole show. We've seen how this became a huge dilemma for Nick Fury because of his relationship with the Skrulls, knowing that it really goes back, 3 decades before. And now we're seeing sort of the consequences of it all, knowing that, we have one side that really wants to find a mutual ground with the Earthlings. And then there's another side that has basically lost all hope and wants to go into extreme measures to basically accomplish their pursuits, and that is and of course, like both of them have the same goal, which is to protect their people and not to lose any more Skrulls moving forward. And that has been the big issue going on with this series. And then there's of course Nick Fury who's involved, knowing that he gave this promise and yet he has yet to fulfill that promise. And now here it is. We've seen the obstacles, we've seen the challenges, we've seen the deaths, because this show has definitely been very thematic on death. We've seen it I think 3 times already. I think even more than that, because there are definitely a couple of supporting and minor characters that have died. We've seen a lot of the whole, duplicity of the characters, how they've been pretty manipulative, again going into all the classic elements of spyware that we've seen in other spy films. But this is definitely the case where it definitely takes a far more sophisticated route in depicting the whole spy themes, at least in the last episode, right? I want to dive deep into it because this is what we learned so far from the last episode and moving forward. We know that at this point, Thalos is dead. That seems to be kind of confirmed at this point. There's no way for him to be resurrected, unlike, what we saw with Gaia. So I think that's kind of it for Thalos, which really sucks because I feel like we start to really get a far better essence of who this character is, trying how the fact that I was starting to really sympathize with him, realizing what kind of the difficulty that he is feeling as one of the, I guess you can say, leaders of the Skrulls, or at least one of the people trying to take charge in the whole matter of trying to protect their people. And we can see how it's definitely been a very difficult situation for him, knowing that things didn't go in their way that they've hoped. And now we've seen how that has unfortunately become a fatal decision because of the fact that, the choices that he made had, it ultimately led to his death in, 2 episodes ago? So that is, again, confirmed that he's dead. We've seen how Gaia reacted to it. At this point, I don't think she's ever going to go back to Gravik and his team. I think she's made her mind up, realizing how they've gone too far into their extreme approaches. But now it's also at the same time, she doesn't entirely agree with her father's ideology of taking a far more of a diplomatic approach. So she's definitely in that confused shell right now of trying to determine what she feels like is the right thing to do, what she feels like would be the best approach for survival, basically, right? So that's something that we'll see. I feel like hopefully by this episode, we'll start to really unravel what ends up becoming her, her decision, what becomes the deciding factor for her, and what she believes is the right approach to go with. So hopefully we'll get that answer today with the final episode. Of course, the big thing about the last episode was the final moments with Nick Fury and what was it, Sophia, played by Olivia Colman's character. We know at least in that last moment that, they confirmed that there was definitely this sort of vial that contained the Avengers DNA, which if Gravik and any of his, his right-hand men were able to get a hand on it, it could be very destructive. It could be very dangerous. They probably would be able to possess the powers of, the Avengers, ones that are even to the point where there are some very powerful individuals like Thor, Captain Marvel, all that sort of stuff, right? So that was definitely the big twist from the last episode. That there is definitely kind of this sort of vial that, Gravik's trying to look for. And we know for a fact that with Gravik, he has this machine that allows him to create super Skrulls, basically. And that's what he's trying to do, which, I'm going to assume the reason why he's taking that approach is to, elongate their life expectancy, knowing that how a lot of Skrulls have died and how many people they've lost along the way. So this is probably a way to, help them survive longer. And now we're going to see where this all goes, right? Like, what is going to be Nick Fury's final moves? Will he be able to succeed? Will he be able to overtake Gravik, stop him from his far more tyrannical ideas, his motives with what he wants to do, what his plans are and his schemes. Of course, in the last episode, he brought back his typical, Nick Fury gears from his Shield time. So we'll see what that means. Like, again, that was a really nice nod to see him returning to kind of his older self. Not really returning to his older self, but definitely bringing back elements of that old Fury that we saw before with the eye patch and the code and all that sort of stuff. But again, the big question is going to be what it means going forward with the final decision, what, means for Gaia, what it means for Nick Fury. Are we going to see any resolution to the Rhodey thing? Because that still remains a mystery at this point. Like, they have yet to address where the real Rhodey is. So I'm really hoping that they do answer that in this final episode, because it's supposed to be a setup for Armor Wars. Or that's if that project's still even happening. We'll see. There's a lot of things that are a bit unknown at the moment, especially with the whole actors and writers strike that's going on. So, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, again, we do get some answer about Rhodey in this episode before the show ends. But yeah, I think this show has been a pretty, solid one for sure. I think this is definitely the one that I've actually been far more, I've been concentrating more about, just because of how different it is in terms of the aesthetic and everything, especially with the storytelling. Yeah, it is a far more of a low-key one when you compare it to kind of the large scope of the MCU, but it doesn't take away the fact that the show has definitely taken a risk. It has definitely taken a different route and what it wants to do in depicting a story. I think honestly this is one of the better MCU Disney Plus shows that I have seen so far. I would definitely put it like in the mid-tier, maybe even like slightly above that, depending on how this final episode is able to finish off the rest of the arcs. But yeah, I think that basically that basically is all the takeaways I have so far going into this final episode. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right down into the final episode of Secret Invasion.
Strenuously denied it, then I guess we're all right then. President Vladimir is a bald-faced
I love
liar,
how
and I've got
like a
30
lot of
dead
people
Russians
are
on a
like
motorway to prove it.
questioning
We cannot rule
imposter
out the
Rhodey right now.
possibility of a false flag attack.
Did you take a stupid pill with your breakfast this morning, Admiral? What happened on that motorway was an all-out Russian tanks taking positions on the Finland and Ukrainian borders. Now, sir, if I may, I've taken the liberty to...
Oh, how fitting with our current climate of geopolitics.
People need to hear from you, sir. They need your leader.
Oh, so he found their camp. All right. Oh, is the radiation back? Oh. Wait a minute. Is this Pripyat? Is that what it is? Is this Pripyat in Ukraine? The one with Chernobyl? Is that what it is? Because the amount of radiation that is hitting him, that is making him sick.
Target practice. Fury's lost it. He wants Ritson stopped before the bomb is launched.
Sonya.
The president now.
Does he not know that Nick knows Sonya? Now, is Fury coughing because of the radiation? Because he was looking at the radiation thing, and I'm assuming this is that ghost town in Ukraine, right? Oh my god, he's still there.
Where's everybody?
This looks like
Locked
Pripyat
away.
now looking at it now.
Looks like it's just you and me, Fury.
I wouldn't say no.
Yeah.
I'm starting to suspect that this is the location of Chernobyl disaster.
To the last stand
Now
of the
looking
great
at
Nick Fury.
wow, how did I not notice
Brody,
that?
We're taking you to safety, Mr. President. Hey,
Your Avengers on standby. What about that invisible cloak and shield?
You too busy playing dress up.
Did you just say invisible cloak and shield?
Using
Oh my
my
god.
skin like a costume.
This was the first human I killed. And you know why I killed him? I killed him because you told me to. Oh, wow. You don't even remember.
Dark.
The first mission you sent me on. This man, Fury, he had a wife. And he had children. Yeah, all right, maybe he was a bit misguided. But I killed him because of you. I killed him, and I killed so many more. And everyone I killed took a little piece out of my heart.
You're not the only one.
No, but I am the only one brave enough to admit it. Talos.
Dang.
And we wandered in the shadows
For you, and when you were done with us, you threw us away. So, first, I'm gonna
Not
kill
bad
you,
with the writing.
and then I'm gonna take a flamethrower to humanity, and just
Easier to save the lives of 8 billion people than it is to change their hearts and minds.
He got a
even for
point.
Nick Fury.
Even Carol Danvers' DNA,
Oh.
along with the Avengers that you and your team collected. The harvest.
in exchange for what?
That you take it, take your powers, go to some other planet, wipe out some of...
I think the radiation's eating your brains, mate.
Well, yeah. It's very high levels. Not sure how he hasn't started deteriorating at the skin. Oh my
It's true.
god.
You really want to die?
The hell?
Well, he's exhibiting Avengers powers too, ain't he? You can even hear the Captain America's shield sound like. Oh, the Incredible Hulk! Shit! Oh. What more gimmicks do you have now? Is that Loki? Or Gaia? Oh, no freaking way. Oh, nice.
Aim that
Nice.
gun to your left, sir.
Nice.
I'm not
Nice
here to hurt you,
deception.
sir, but he is.
You killed my mother, my father. You're flailing.
Oh my god, you're about that shit. Drax. Oh my god. They're pulling in all the gimmicks. Oh, Ant-Man. Oh. Was that Ghost? I don't know. That was a bit hard to tell. Is he exhibiting Doctor Strange powers?
Mr. President, listen. Just stay the course, all right? And all our enemies will be gone.
Yeah.
Why is he... Literally, the fact that he's so insistent about trying to destroy Russia should be indication that he is a Skrull. Oh, no way! Captain Marvel's... Oh... Oh, Mantis. Sleep!
Sleep.
Hey! First off, how did she know that that's Mantis's power is my question. And there she is manifesting Carol Danvers.
What have you got to lose?
I'm seeing the Ant-Man, Carol Danvers.
You're just like your father. Just like them.
Well then. But he's going to regenerate as Extremis though. Or is he not? Ooh, he dead, for sure. Damn, the violence in this show. Damn.
Jesus,
Oh man, there are no limits. Where's Rhodey? Where is... Oh, there he is! Oh man. I want to know how this full story about this. Oh, they even got Ross! Oh man. How did this happen?
Colonel Rhodes? How long have you been in here?
I mean, how are they not feeling sick from the radiation, though, is my question. I mean, this is clearly Pripyat, right? Yeah, that's where the Chernobyl site was.
We all witnessed the terror attack to Congress for immediate emergency authorization, a bill that designates all off-world born species enemy combatants. We know who you are. We know how to find you. And we will kill every last one of you.
The heck?
Abilities, it would be a lopsided affair.
Who are you?
A friend of a friend. Your people need a leader. You'll need resources to fight this war that Ritson has launched on your people, and I can give them to you.
And let me guess, you're doing this.
I wonder what this will imply.
Putting things back together was never gonna be easy.
What the hell is all this?
This is how the enemy got so good.
That means that Ritson is
You
probably
took a bad situation and made it worse. That's real one-term president stuff. But we have to act now. Before the hit squad you inspired kill off the Skrulls who still want to help us. Now you got dumbass vigilantes killing innocent humans too.
If you truly care about the Skrulls, get on my planet.
Damn, what the heck? So hateful.
The Skrulls.
Kree make peace. Reminds me of
Will
that
they
old
hold it up
joke.
though?
What do Skrulls call good luck?
There you have it, everyone. That was the finale for Secret Invasion. Definitely got a lot of answers. Definitely have a lot of questions as well. So I'm gonna go right down unpack. So for one thing, of course, they finally answered a lot of my questions. Like for one thing, where Rhodey went, we saw where he was. He was definitely kidnapped alongside Ross, so that was something that we probably kind of figured was going to be the case, but you know, they finally confirmed it, of course, or at least that got resolved. Definitely the big question was which side Gaia was going to take in terms of this battle. Now, it wasn't exactly as if she took a side. It was just more so she took a revenge upon Gravik. I mean, I have to say, that was a pretty smart move by Gaia by taking on the disguise of Nick Fury and basically trying to emulate how humans would feel if they were exposed to radiation, which I'm going to talk about in a second because I did not know about the actual location part, but the fact that she was able to, you know, deceive Gravik to thinking that she was actually Nick, even though Nick Fury was actually somewhere else. I believe that, you know, the president was in London at the time or somewhere around there. That was a cool move. But I'll talk about the other part of that. But yeah, I think overall it's a pretty decent conclusion. Like for one thing, we do get this pretty big battle between Gaia and Gravik. I think that was a pretty cool thing to see. The fact that they were both able to manifest a lot of the powers from the Avengers. We saw Karen Danvers, we saw Captain Marvel, we saw Drax, we saw Mantis, we saw Hulk, Abomination. We saw all the powers being manifested by both Gravik and Gaia. So that was a really cool thing to see, and that's gonna be a really fun one to try to pinpoint every single one of the powers that they used in that fight. So I think I was able to pinpoint a couple of them. I think there was this case where we were able to, I think there was one point they used Captain America, I want to say, because I feel like I heard like the shield sound in a sense, but oh, and then the Winter Soldier, of course, there was a nod to that. So yeah, lots of great nods to that whole fight sequence. What a way to kind of, you know, pay homage to all the greatest heroes, especially the ones who were there at Avengers Endgame. Although I'm still wondering why Abomination powers were showing up, because I don't believe Abomination was at Battle of Earth. So I'm assuming that the powers they were manifesting were more so the Chitauri and Ebony Maw and all that sort of stuff, because I think I saw Ebony Maw powers in there. I can't be certain. I'm not 100%, but I want to say that was the case. The one with the ice, with the blade that was like ice, I couldn't pinpoint where that power came from. So definitely a lot of questions about some of the things I saw. Maybe they were alluding to something else, but because they said that the actual like bottle was, you know, it had contained the DNAs of those who were at Battle of Earth. So there were definitely ones I could not figure out, but then there was ones that I easily could figure out, and then there was ones I'm like, why are they in there? Like Abomination, for instance. Although I'm assuming that was Abomination, but yeah, no, that was a pretty cool fight. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest fight I've seen. I mean, for one thing, at least it's not anticlimactic. That's something that's a worst case scenario to deal with. There was definitely not the case where it was too anticlimactic. I think it was a pretty good momentum in terms of the whole fight sequence, and how that was kind of jumping between that and the whole situation with Ritson and Fury and that imposter Rhodey. So yeah, that was some pretty cool moments right there for sure. I think again, I was pretty pumped up seeing a lot of the Avenger references with the actual fight between Gaia and Gravik. I'm still very curious about, you know, the whole build up to that moment, because I think this is definitely the one that there is kind of a hole a loophole just because, you know, Fury was the one who retrieved the actual vial, yet we never saw any moment in between where, you know, Fury met up with Gaia or if there's even any sort of communication with them. So, I definitely have questions about that. I mean, I know they probably didn't show it just to kind of build up that suspense and give us that shock factor in the moment, knowing that it wasn't Nick, but it was actually Gaia. So again, I think that was at least, like, I can see the pros and cons and why they went with this approach. I think overall, I do like that they took this route because it definitely gave us that shock factor knowing that that wasn't Nick, that was Gaia. And again, they made this very convincing knowing that, you know, the imposter, you know, Fury by Gaia was, you know, emulating more of the human aspects that you would think would happen, especially considering the fact that, you know, they happen to be what looks to be the site of the Chernobyl disaster, which I'll talk about in a second, but very smart move. I really like that idea. Again, it was definitely one that was like, oh, this is smart. This was a very smart play by Gaia and Nick, knowing that, you know, they have to stop Gravik but at the same time, there's also this big issue where there is an imposter Rhodey, basically manipulating the president. So, it's definitely a lot of big moves that they had to deal with. Eventually they resolve at least that one part. But yeah, I mean, I have to say the one part where Nick shoots the imposter Rhodey, I mean, that was like, I've never even addressed the whole violence in the show because I keep forgetting to mention it, but I have to say the violence in the show has no limits because holy cow, like you would not show somebody get shot right in the forehead with blood splatter from behind and allow kids to see that. Like I don't think I've ever seen that with any other previous, you know, Marvel cinematic content before. So definitely quite, like, they're definitely upping up the violence in this show, or at least maybe just this show in particular, because it is far more mature in its content, mature with the storytelling. So it probably is very fitting to, you know, up the violence, up the bloodiness here. So, but again, it's just like, it's definitely kind of like hits you like, wow, like this is how violent this show is really approaching. And we've seen this in previous episode as well, where they've really showed some very bloody scenes. Even to the extent that's maybe far worse than what we saw here. But yeah, no, that was something I was just like, wow, that was super bloody. That was super violent. Again, not the extent that I would ever see with Marvel content. So, I mean, I could see this as a good thing though. So maybe we'll see more of that. Who knows? But I think it works well with the whole aesthetic with this show. What else? Of course, the one thing I want to address, of course, is the whole location, because I feel like I don't want to forget about location. So I did not know for a fact that the Skrulls were located what appears to be the site of Chernobyl. If you know the whole Chernobyl situation, this Chernobyl disaster where the nuclear power plants had exploded, and as a result of that, you know, there's a whole ghost town, I believe, is in like Pripyat, Ukraine. Now I think it's like maybe a couple miles north of Kiev, I want to say, but this is a disaster that happened in 1986. And the moment that I started to notice like the radiation signal, the fact that, you know, Gaia was fake coughing as Nick, because humans, if they have that much radiation exposure, it will make them sick, and even to the point where they'll start to have far more you know, fatal you know, side effects. So, and that's what happened with the 1986 Chernobyl thing. If you want to learn more about it, or if you want to ever see it, I recommend watching Chernobyl, the HBO show that was actually written by Craig Mason, and I think that show is absolutely just spectacular. I think that the writing and the historical context of it all is absolutely incredible, but also horrifying. And I mean, I knew the story long before even the show itself, like, because I took a lot of science classes in high school, that, you know, it was something that was brought up here and there, especially if you were learning chemistry. So I already knew about the Chernobyl disaster for a long time, but I did not realize that they were actually at the Chernobyl disaster as their campsite. So, and then of course, when we see the background, you can now see the position where the nuclear, it's like, the nuclear site itself had exploded. So, I mean, of course, like, it's been over 40 years, at least in the context of the show, almost 40 years since Chernobyl had happened. So, I mean, I would say a bit of the radiation has gone down, but it's going to take forever for that, for that amount of radiation to really kind of, go away. It's going to take not just years, it's going to take like centuries for it to really kind of, really drop its levels. I mean, it's one of the reasons why it's a ghost town, right? So now looking at this, and make far more sense why they chose that as a site, because unfortunately humans can't go there, because if they do, and if they're exposed to radiation on too high of levels or there for too long, then they're going to get sick and they're going to feel the side effects of it. So yeah, that was definitely something that shook me. I did not realize that. Now that I know after 6 episodes that this is where they were this whole time, like, that is just wow. Like, the specificity in terms of the details of that is something that I would not have known until now. So, wow, what a way to kind of, I mean, I don't know if it was just me, like, maybe, like, I feel like I should have known this. I don't know. I don't feel like they ever pinpointed that they were ever at Chernobyl. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just didn't, look at the signs or the details or the teasers or hints. Maybe I just missed them. If that's the case, that's definitely on me. But who knows? Maybe I'm not the only one. So we'll see what everyone has to say about that. I feel like that was definitely a shock right there, knowing where they were this whole time. So yeah, what else? Of course, again, I want to jump back into the fight a little bit, because again, as I said before, it's definitely a really good fight. Because again, of all the references, how, it was definitely a battle between Gaia and Gravik. It was definitely one that is a vengeful motive, because, she literally says right there in the beginning of the fight that, you killed my mother, you killed my father, basically having this, Inigo Montoya moment with Gravik. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a pretty solid fight. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, because I think there are moments there where it's just like you would like to see a bit more of development. And I think, again, I mean, if a lot of people are probably going to argue that it's definitely far more of a gimmick. I mean, there's definitely a gimmick aspect to it. But even then, I enjoy that whole sequence with the references, the Hulk stuff, the Captain America reference, the Winter Soldier. I love those references. So I think that was a really good play. I love how they really emphasize the whole Captain Marvel powers, because of the fact that, she is far more associated with Nick Fury and Skrulls than with any other Avengers that they were kind of showing off the powers. So definitely a really nice touch right there. We'll see. I think the big question I do have is, does, do the powers allow, I mean, Gravik's dead, of course, but at least in the case of Gaia, I wonder if this is a long-term thing or if this is just a temporary thing. So I think that'll be one of the big questions going into it. Like, does the machine allow them to have long-term powers? Now, having seen the fact that they were also eliciting, some of the extremist powers, I'm going to say that this is probably a permanent thing, because again, if they were able to, show off some of the extremists, this extremist qualities that we were seeing from their skin and all that sort of stuff, and how they're regenerating, I'm going to assume that it's probably a permanent thing. So if that's the case, then Gaia now has all the powers of the Avengers on her, and that's going to be very insane. So definitely questions again about what this would imply going to the future for us. I'm going to talk about Ritz in a second, but I do want to talk about the whole Sonya and Gaia alliance that appears to be, the case here. It seems like they're going to have an alliance. As we also expected, it seems as if she's probably going to take a leadership position at some point. This is what even Sonya was suggesting herself, that she should be the one to take up as the leader now that, Gravik and Thalos are dead, and the whole situation with Ritson, with what he has declared, that's going to be an interesting aspect. So knowing that the fact that Sonya has opened this door of this alliance between her and not just with Gaia, but basically any Skrull individuals who want to be in the good side, right? Definitely questions what this could imply for the future. Like, they don't really, tease what that could imply. Like, we just know that for sure that there seems to be some sort of mutuality between the two groups, right? There's going to be some sort of partnership. So that at least seems like that's going to open some doors to something in the future. Like, it seems as if the whole Skrull storyline is not going to be the end right here. If anything, this is kind of just setting at the beginning of a new phase for the MCU. Like, I mean, yeah, we've known about Skrulls for a while now, back in, was it 2018 or 2019 with Captain Marvel. They didn't really start to expand on that until we start to see some of the teases here and there, such as with WandaVision and Far From Home being the examples. This is definitely the one where we're seeing far more of the larger scope of the whole Skrull, I guess, invasion situation in hand. Then it's just a question of where this will go forward. And it seems as if, knowing what's happened so far here, it's going to still continue to be a big case. I wonder if this is going to affect the Marvels, because that's a big question. Because at the end of the episode, of course, he mentions how the Kree want to, make a compromise, or, at least make an agreement with the Skrull, right? So I wonder that would apply. I don't know if that would be, if they're just lying, or, they have some sort of scheme in mind. That's probably gonna be questions going to the Marvels, because we know in the Marvels, at least in the trailers, we have spotted some Kree, people in the army that, the villain is with. So definitely lots of ambiguity with where the direction will be going, or how this would affect the Skrulls, knowing that we got this pre-revelation here, or at least this implication of where the Kree might be going with. Because again, we know how the Kree, we already know the relationship between the Kree and the Skrulls, right? We know for a fact that there's definitely kind of this clash between them. The Kree's been trying to exterminate them. The Skrulls are trying to defend themselves against them. And even Carol Danvers at one point was kind of part of the Kree until she figured out what was really going on, right? So we'll see where that goes. Definitely keeps the doors open and continuing to explore more of the Skrull invasion stuff, or at least in just general the Skrull stuff, because there are a lot of Skrulls still, living amongst the humans on Earth. So we'll see where that goes. Of course, the big thing is the way that President Ritson reacted to the whole situation at hand, knowing that, the Skrulls did, in fact, like, at least the bad apples, right? So the bad apples, the rebels, did indeed, corrupt the whole government. They did, kind of did, I guess you can say the subterfuge and all that sort of stuff, where they really did kind of commit some treacherous, acts against not just one, but multiple governments, now that the truth is out. Knowing that Ritson decided, out of all the things that he could have gone with, to try to minimize any sort of, minimize any sort of the dangers and the threats and the stakes of it all. He went with the really extreme route of trying to exterminate all the Skrulls that they come upon, which is, whoa, right? Did not anticipate that, did not expect that. That definitely threw me off guard. Because you would think the last thing that would happen is somebody who is a leader going to the extreme extent of trying to exterminate a whole species. And I get it. Like, we're now dealing with the whole situation about aliens and all that sort of stuff, and how they've now been living amongst humans. But the fact that he made this as a protocol, like, if that's the case, like, doesn't that mean that people like Thor, the Guardians, heck, even the fact with, like, Quill, right? Like, they're all technically alien entities, therefore they're all considered enemies of, at least in the extent with Ritson, enemies of the United States. So lots of issues going on with that. Definitely one that should have been well more thought out. I think it's going to cause far more catastrophes and disasters and a fiasco than really just resolving anything. Again, now he's just declared that, basically declaring a war against any alien entity. Yeah, that's something that I feel like needs to be thought out. I hope that there's going to be some sort of not just exploration, but just some sort of resolution to this whole situation that is now just sparked, because that definitely opens up a can of worms now. Because again, like, it just seems so vague just to make that declaration. Like, it's not just really implying about Skrulls, it's like just about any alien, right? Again, we're talking Thor, the Guardians, in the case with Quill. I feel like there's 4 more aliens I can't think of right now, but there are a lot of aliens who have, you know, visited Earth, who have worked alongside the Avengers, who helped protect, you know, not just, you know, the universe, but helped fight against Thanos, right, at the Battle of Earth. So very, you know, very dangerous move made by the president right there. We'll see where it all goes. I know there's a lot of rumors about what's going on with some of the future projects, especially with Captain America. What was it? It's called Brave New World or Brave New Order. I'm pretty sure it's Brave New World. Like, I know that Harrison Ford's going to replace William Hurt as not secretary. Is he still secretary? Maybe secretary. Still. Well, I think in that movie he'll be President Ross, right? So, we'll see where it goes from there, right? Kind of seeing the change in power. Maybe that's what they might do at the end. Like, Ritson maybe because of what Ritson has done, that's probably going to cost his, you know, his presidential reelection. I don't know if he's already had 2 terms yet. I mean, we'll see. Because if he's had 2 terms, then he can't run again. It has to be a new candidate. But if this is his first term, then he may have lost, you know, the election in between now and Captain America. So definitely a lot of things to kind of look into, kind of keep an eye on as we get closer to Captain America's release. Of course, with the whole actors and writers strike that's going on, we don't know for certain if we're still going to get the Captain America movie. I think right now it is scheduled for July of next year. It might get moved from what it could be, because I've been hearing a lot of news about a lot of movies getting pushed, and we're talking movies that are supposed to be coming out later in the year, right? So if movies later in the year may actually get moved to a future date or get postponed as a result, then I would imagine the same case could happen with Captain America. So we'll see if we'll still get it by then, and if not, and whether or not we get it. This is something to kind of think about going into it, because again, this is some very dangerous decisions made by the president, or at least the current president we see here. Even Nick Fury kind of, you know, berates him for just doing that, because again, that just seems very extreme and very vengeful. I mean, there's no sympathy, there's no mercy, no nothing, not even considering the fact that there are some very good Skrulls who are helping them. So now that's going to affect Nick Fury now, because there might be some, you know, good Skrulls who are probably going to have to reconsider where their allegiance are. So definitely a lot of a huge bubble where everything else is going. Like, even though there are some things that have been resolved, but at the same time, this has now opened a whole can of worms with decisions made, with where the direction has been for some of the characters' arcs. At least in one case, we know for a fact that Gaia is probably not going to be the leader, or at least presumed to take over as a leader for the Skrulls, knowing that this has happened, that, you know, Ritson took this action. So definitely things to keep an eye on. Again, I think whether or not we get a Secret Invasion, you know, season 2 is going to be questionable. I mean, honestly, like, for this show, I have always imagined it was going to be just a miniseries. So the fact that they still kept things open for the future, like, I mean, I still don't think there's going to be season 2, but I think that it might just open up a lot of storylines for other projects that are coming up, whether it be the Disney Plus shows or the movies that are coming out in phase 5, or heck, even phase 6 in that case, because we still don't know the rest of the the schedule, or at least the rest of the projects, announced projects for phase 6. So we'll see where it all goes. I think, again, with what we've seen so far, I think this whole show overall has been pretty impressive. I think, as I said before, it's been pretty solid with how they, deliver the story, delivered the whole political thriller aesthetic, really kind of doning down on, like, really hammering down on the political thriller elements, playing that on with, the Skrull story, and using the Skrull invasions comic strips to really inspire the direction of where this whole show is going to be about. Seeing the character development of Nick Fury, kind of his dilemma, as well as that of Gaius. And I think that that's definitely the one that has been, kind of very questionable in terms of their allegiance, of course, or at least their morality of where they want to go, or at least their objective. And I think, again, overall, the show has done a pretty good job of delivering on the aesthetic, something that is deep on the broodiness, the dark nature of it. One that's been very sophisticated and grounded, like, again, probably the most sophisticated grounded show, heck, let alone MCU content I've seen in a long time. But yeah, I think this definitely opened up the prospect for what it would be for MCU moving forward. It's not my favorite, not Disney Plus, but my favorite MCU content. Again, I think there's definitely been far more amazing shows out there. I think, again, one of the things is that the show is definitely far more of a slow burn. And I think that there are definitely cases here and there where I wish things could have been a bit more, a bit more meticulous with the storytelling, dialogue. Could have taken a bit more time to flesh out some of the story arcs and development for the characters. But even then, I think, given that it was just a 6-episode series, which is a really hard thing to do, and I think I've mentioned this before, that the whole 6-episode format, it absolutely sucks. We've seen it with so many MCU TV shows before, that, or not just MCU, but even Star Wars, that the 6-episode format absolutely is ridiculous. It makes no sense. It really just, messes up the whole pacing of the shows, especially knowing that there isn't a lot of leeway to kind of go around some of the stories or trying to develop it in a far more organic manner. But even that being the case, I think this is probably the best example where they were able to utilize a 6-episode format and do so in a way that they were able to balance out most things overall. I think this is probably the one that's the most organized and the most thought out and trying to deal with these limits. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty decent, Disney Plus MCU show. Far better than She-Hulk, of course. It does not reach the extent of WandaVision, but it's not that far off from, Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like there's another show that came out last year. Miss Marvel. I loved Miss Marvel, but that's just me. I feel like Moon Knight had a bit of a pacing issue by the time it got to the finale. I think this is a pretty solid one. Again, not my favorite finale, but definitely one that is very noteworthy, right? So yeah, I think, again, this is a pretty solid conclusion to Secret Invasion. I think, again, it definitely has, expanded the lore for the MCU. I think having seen this it's definitely not made me feel, disappointed anyway, because I think having watched this show, at least I feel a bit satisfied knowing that the show, went in this route that it is. It didn't feel as if I was ever really too underwhelmed with anything that's developed. And that should be a really good sign, at least. So hopefully then we'll see where things go on moving forward. I don't believe, or no, actually, we will have one more MCU show and, of course, one more movie coming out before the end of the year. So, yeah, we have a lot more MCU stuff coming up later in the year, of course. Again, a pretty solid show that we had here. Not my favorite, but definitely one that took a lot of risks that I appreciate. And yeah, we'll see where things go. But that's all I have to say about the final episode of Secret Invasion, as well as the fact that this could be the conclusion of the series. Let me know what your thoughts are about, Secret Invasion overall, right? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What are your opinions about the show in comparison to everything else we've seen so far in the MCU, whether it be just the overall multiverse saga or in comparison to some of the, MCU Disney Plus shows that we've had so far, where would you rank it? For me, as I said before, I would probably rank it somewhere in the mid tier, but definitely far better than She-Hulk. I feel like She-Hulk is definitely set a low bar right here, but that's just me. But what do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that the show definitely took a far different aesthetic in terms of delivering a lot of the things, like being far more sophisticated, grounded, being far more broody, and in their whole approach, while doing so in a way that it is maintaining that political thriller element? Did you enjoy kind of the decisions that they made, the creativity behind it, the fact that they took this approach with Nick Fury's story, as well as the implications for the the implications for the Skrulls? What this could be what are your theories and predictions moving forward, knowing that they've opened this door for the Skrulls as well as Nick Fury? What this could imply for the Marvels, if there's any sort of direct connection to it, as well as Armor Wars, if that's still going to be a thing. And yeah, let me know if you have any other thoughts about, Secret Invasions alone. Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.